In my travels the other day, I came across a billboard that said, "Everybody deserves access to overdose prevention." And my first thought was, everybody has access to overdose prevention. It's called not doing drugs. If you do not do heroin, it is impossible to overdose on heroin. If you don't do coke, if you don't drink too much, whatever drug it is that pops into your head, if you don't consume it, it is impossible to overdose on it. Now, I'm aware that the sign meant Narcan or some sort of emergency, you did too many drugs, now take this medicine type thing and or device. I'm not sure what it is that they are specifically. But that made me think, this is the problem that people have in the world today, is that nobody is willing to accept the consequences of their own actions. If you do drugs and you overdose on drugs, the problem is not that you did not have access to this overdose preventative. The problem is that you consumed drugs. And when you consume drugs, you take on the risk of overdosing and or dying. That's just life. But people are unwilling to accept that. They are unwilling to accept that their actions have repercussions. Regardless of how you might feel about it, whether you want to be pro-life or pro-choice, not that it matters anyway, because people have opinions and they do absolutely nothing, so who cares? But regardless of how you feel about abortion, the fundamental argument that people are making for their right to abortion is their right to not have to deal with the consequences of their actions. Yes, I know that people want to point out the exceptions, the extreme circumstances, someone is assaulted or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about by and large. The argument is you want to have sex, but you don't want to deal with what might come with that. That's ridiculous. And this, again, is everybody's problem in the world. The body positivity movement is essentially trying to change people's perspectives on the repercussions of people's actions. If you have a problem with being body shamed, if you have a problem with being fat shamed, the problem is not that other people are pointing out that you're fat and making fun of you for it. The problem is that you're fat. You wanted to eat all of that food and you had no problem getting fat, but then when things came with that you did not like, you wanted to sit there and cry about it and act like the rest of the world needs to change in order to accommodate this thing. When in reality, if this bothers you, it is up to you to lose weight. It is not up to other people to stop fat shaming you because it hurts your feelings. You put yourself in a position to have your feelings hurt. That's life. That's how the world works. There are trade-offs to all decisions that you make. It's the same thing when people want to sit there and complain about the economy or the price of gas. But you chose to live a lifestyle that made you poor. You chose to live a lifestyle that did not give you enough money to be able to take care of these things. Now you can't take care of these things and you want to sit there and cry about it, to blame the politicians and the lawmakers and the people who vote and whoever it is that they are telling you to blame today. Rather than taking a look at yourself and saying, man, if I had done better, this wouldn't be a thing that is holding me back. Because regardless of how expensive you would like to say rent is, there are people who pay rent perfectly fine. Regardless of how expensive you want to say that gas is, there are people who purchase gas without a second thought. There are people who purchase the homes in cash that you think are too expensive to finance. This is a you problem. And the difference is, some people do not believe that other people need to be responsible for the consequences of their actions. They take that upon themselves. They want to be able to afford things, so they go out and put themselves in a position to be able to afford things. Other people go and they go out and they put themselves in a position where they cannot afford things and then cry and blame the rest of the world and blame the laws and everything and call it inhumane because their rights are being violated. Even though it was their rights that put them in the exact position that they're in to not be able to do the things that other people can do. If you would like to change that, you need to change that. It is not up to the rest of the world to accommodate you in what it is that you feel like doing. If you want to be able to get a house, you need to go and figure out a way to get a house. It is not your right to have a house simply because you exist. Just like it is not your right to have Narcan or whatever else overdose prevention this billboard was talking about, because you could have prevented your overdose by not doing drugs. You could have stopped yourself from being fat shamed by not being fat. You could have sidestepped the entirety of this pro-life, pro-choice, whatever nonsense argument it is, by simply not partaking in things that you were not ready to face the potential consequences of. So when you put yourself in a situation and something happens and other people refuse to bail you out of it, that's on you. It is not on them. You are responsible for your life. They are not. You are responsible for your choices. They are not. So if you don't like what comes with that, that is on you. But other people are not going to fix your fucking problems. And the more that you expect people to, the worse situations that you will continue to put yourself in, thinking that someone else is going to bail you out. And this is how people get in these situations where they hate the world, they think everything's awful, and they think everything's terrible, and they think everything's bad, and America's a terrible place because of all this, all of that, whatnot. They think healthcare is too expensive, so they complain about the cost of healthcare, and they blame this on everybody else in the world, not realizing that if you A, made more money, or B, took better care of your health, the price of healthcare wouldn't matter. You control both of those things. You don't control the price of healthcare. Other people do. And if the doctors and whoever it is that powers it to be want to make healthcare super duper expensive, that's their prerogative. They don't owe it to you. Now, I'm not saying that healthcare shouldn't be affordable. That's not the point that I'm making here. The point that I am making is you do not control this. And regardless of how you feel about it, that's not going to change anything. The only thing that you can change is the things that you can change. So keeping with the aforementioned healthcare example, you don't like that it's expensive. Okay, fine. Make more money. Or make yourself be in better health. That's a thing that you could do too. The vast majority of health issues are brought on by your lifestyle. People doing stupid stuff. You drink, you smoke, you eat a bunch of garbage foods, you're lazy, you gossip, you consume negative stuff all day. All of this stuff is hurting you and killing you on the inside. You spend your whole entire day eating. This is not good for you. Even if you're not fat, and you create all of these health issues, and then you want to pawn it off on someone else and say, you need to make this cheaper so that I can afford it, or these people need to pay for my health insurance. It's not about that. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take responsibility for your own life. Until you do that, you are always going to be sitting there in some disadvantageous position, blaming everyone else for putting you into it, and never looking at yourself. And until you look at yourself, you're always going to be stuck exactly where the fuck you are. And that's nobody's fault but yours.